Welcome to the Fantasy Review Podcast, where fantasy doesn't end on the page. My name is James Doolin, and I am the author of No Heart for a Thief. I am joined by my co-host, as always, Nathan Klimbara. He is a reviewer and blogger for thefantasyreviews.com, and we bring you an episode of the Fantasy Reviews Podcast every other Tuesday. We are joined by three illustrious guests from SPFBO. If you're not familiar with it, the Self-Published Fantasy Blog Off is a yearly contest that brings together self-published books and has a year-long competition to see who our bloggers like the best. So we've brought three amazing authors together to have a little bit of a conversation about the competition, about their books. We are joined by Faye, HC, and Connor. I'm going to go around in that order and ask them to introduce their books and introduce themselves. So Faye, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm a Thai fantasy author. I live in Bangkok, and Obsidian is what I entered into SPFBO9. This is an epic fantasy set in the desert that deals with broken humans and someone who gets trashed by the world and then becomes sharper than they were when they were whole, which is the reason why it's called obsidian, because that's a rock that must be broken before it becomes a weapon. So that's basically what you're gonna get, a show of humanity and their strengths and flaws and why we're worth saving.
That's great. Thank you. HC, what do you got for us?
Hi, I'm HC, and I am from Nashville, Tennessee. And I have entered, oh my gosh, how perfect was that lighting just now? Like, my screensaver just came on. Curse of the Fallen. It is a dark fantasy, grimdark fantasy about a sorceress who is born into a world where magic is forbidden, and she is pursued by the religious faction that oversees the country named the Order of Sorrow, and it's just following her quest to free herself from their reign, to free her country and her people from their persecution. It gets compared a lot to Tolkien, which is really cool, but it's like a darker version of like classic fantasy is what a lot of people say. So it's really fast paced, really gritty, and very adult. A lot of people think it's young adult. It is not. I've been warned.
Oh, that's good. A warning for our younger listeners, if we have younger listeners. Connor, what do you got for us?
My name is Connor Caplan. I'm an autistic quadruplet. I also have my cover with me somewhere. The Fall is All There Is, which, like me, the character is also an autistic quadruplet, because I figured I probably had that market cornered in SFF. It's about a royal named Peter Mercy who runs away from home at 18. And then like the story starts like 5 years after that, when his dad has died and his siblings have to sort out a succession crisis. It's got family drama, sibling rivalry. It's a post-apocalyptic science fantasy with weird exploding cyborg horses and swords that have batteries made of human thyroid.
That's something I haven't heard before, so that's kind of
I get that a lot.
Yeah. So to get us started off, can we do a round? And I just want to see who's the most convincing when they say the phrase, "This competition is really about building community, and I don't care if I win." Connor, can you convince us of that?
I'm so upset because I actually had that written down somewhere. When I got the list of questions, that was actually one of the things I wrote down. No, it's genuinely. Yeah. In SPFBO9, I genuinely met some of the coolest people. It was my intro to self-published fantasy, and I would not have the book I have currently if I had not joined that contest.
Well, okay, fine. That was actually convincing and heartfelt. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
HC?
Well, with Sienna, I know I'm not gonna win. So really, like we all know she's gonna win this. Like there's no competition there.
Oh.
I've been seeing so much hype for you, honestly.
Yeah.
For me? Or for her?
I could not see who said that.
For me? HC? I don't know.
Oh God, now I feel like an asshole because no.
I know. I was wondering. I was like, for me, like no.
No, I was backing you up.
And so this is the point of the episode. We're going to get the authors to eat each other and just kind of go after each other by the end of the episode.
How dare you? No, I was like, there's no way you're talking about me. That's why I said that. I was like, what?
I mean, I've seen hype for all three of you.
Yes.
So like I would not like, and I mean, James, also you, I guess all four of you, since I'm like the reader in the group. But yeah, I've seen hype for a lot of you.
So Faye, how are you finding the contest so far?
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure. I really want in because I wanted to join the party. I missed it last year because I was too late to sign up. It hurt like being Cinderella who actually really didn't get to the ball. And I really wanted to join this year because all the people were, people were so excited last year and it was so much fun it seemed like so much fun to be a part of it and I wanted in for that. And but now that I'm in, everyone is cheering for me and it's a lot of pressure and I'm afraid to let everyone down, seriously. But yeah, that's just something in life you gotta get past, I guess. Yeah. So I'm in. I'm not relaxed about this at all, you guys. I can't convince you that.
If our viewers don't know and our listeners don't know, how the competition works is there are 300 books divided up by 10 blogs, and each blog will put forward one finalist, and that one finalist will be read by eventually the 10 finalists from the 10 blogs will be read by all the other blogs, and they'll put forward one winner by the end of the year. So it's a May to May competition, and so it really stretches out, which really kind of pulls on the anxiety for a lot of our authors. Everybody's blog is a little bit different. Let's go around. What's your feeling with your blog? Is your blog giving information about who's reading who's reading your book and when they're going to be reading your book? Are they saying anything? Are they being gravely silent? HC.
I was actually happy to get mine. I think I'm with Fantasy Book Critic, I think. But I like that they don't really, what am I trying to say? They have more of a structured way of reviewing their books. It's not just, oh, I'm not feeling it, you're not passing. They have like rules or guidelines that they're trying to follow with it, which I really appreciated. And they also seem like they kind of really know what they're doing because they have a lot of really big names on their blog. So that's really intimidating, but I feel like they're going to have a little more structure with it. I wasn't wanting it to be so luck-based. So at least in the first half, I feel like I'll have a little bit more of a chance maybe. But I've never talked to my reviewer. I think it's Chels. And she hasn't really been posting anything, but I'm honestly not really following it too much because I don't really know how to follow it. So I just kind of am just letting the cards fall where they may. And if someone lets me know something, then I will go to wherever I am talked about. But it keeps the anxiety down if I just kind of just let it be.
Yeah. Faye, are you paying attention really closely? Is your blog letting you know anything about who's reviewing your book and when?
I try, but I don't have that much time, so not often. I'm with a wax report, and the books are split between two reviewers. I think Esme is the one who does not have my book on her list, and she updates she reads really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
She's already writing reviews right now. I'm actually glad I'm not on that group because I want to prolong this a little bit longer, the excitement. I don't want to know I failed like the first month and stuff. But I'm with Kristen, and I got so lucky, I think, because I'm a huge fan of Guy Gabriel Kay. He's my #1 fantasy author. And I found out that Kristen is also a huge fan of Guy Gabriel Kay, and I take my prose takes a lot after him. It's inspired by his, so my style is very close to how he writes. My story isn't the way I do things isn't like Kay, but my prose is at least in that direction. I wouldn't compare it to Kay, but in that direction. So I think, I don't know, fingers crossed.
We'll knock on some wood for you. So hopefully that's going well. Connor, as the only one on this panel who's been in this before, what's your experience like this time, and is it a little bit different?
It's more chill than it was the first time, at least so far. The last time was pretty much constant panic, because not only was I new to the contest, but I was new to just publishing in general. So I was just having a bunch of feelings about publishing like at that time. And so the contest became a sort of linchpin for just a lot of like figuring out how to exist in publishing in the first place. So compared to that, it's a lot easier because I got that sorted out since then. It's this time around, it's weirder because people actually know who I am this time. I was not particularly well known in SPFBO9. This time there are at least like 3 people who are like who think that I'm gonna do all right. So I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more pressure at least. But the panic is only setting in like brief like fits. I'll go like long stretches where I don't think about it, and then like I'm in Becky's group, so I'll just have a day where I'm just like, I need to watch every single video she's ever done in the contest, figure out what my odds are. I need to run this up like an algorithm. It's like it gets like I'll have a brief like intense moment of hyperfixation on it for like a few hours of the day where I'm just like, that's all I'm thinking about. And I'll be like, oh my god, like, okay, so she doesn't mind like sci-fi blended with fantasy, which means I have a chance, which is horrible because now I can't count on being cut. All right, cool.
I do want to applaud you. We've gone a few minutes into this conversation already, and you have passed your goal in terms of not swearing yet. So I am very proud of you.
He was definitely swearing before we started recording, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since recording.
We already got that out of the way.
Yeah.
We have like maybe 5 minutes or so before the next episode.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Now time to fire it up.
Yeah, so with all the stress and anxiety that you're all talking about, why enter a competition like SPFBO? What are some of the positives and what are some of the downsides? HC, we'll start with you.
I mean, for me, I don't really see any downsides. I guess unless the big blogger leaves me an awful review, but I don't know if they're going to do that. So like to anybody, but the good thing about it is that you get to connect with a lot of people that you may not have known about before. I mean, I wouldn't be on this panel right now if I wasn't in it. So you get to, get a good networking, get good connections and relationships. And I don't know, you just kind of get your book into more hands too at the same time. So there was one written interview that I did, and it said, how would your career change if you were to win SPFBO? And I said, well, it would not exist because I would die of shock. So I am not in this to win it. I don't expect to win it. It'd be awesome if I did, but it's really just more for the connection. So that's what I think is a really good positive about it.
Yeah. Faye, you want to go next?
Yeah, it's a job requirement. In my point of view, I've decided to publish. I have to succeed. That is my motto. Everything I do, I aim to succeed. And I find this every competition I can get my hands on that is going to push this book, I will enter. The good side of it is that I get more eyes on the book. The downside of it is that it's filled with anxiety and it could ruin my confidence a little bit or a lot. I'm not sure, depending on how much I think I can, I expect to make. I wouldn't even say win. I just, making finalists would be a success, a huge success already. And yeah, but I'm also one of those people who, the more I'm afraid of something, the more I want to kill that fear because it makes me feel invincible afterwards. I'm a traveler, I'm an adventurer. I travel to places that I'm afraid I'm not going to survive for that reason. So those two things, it's a job and it's a challenge that I want to overcome, this anxiety of trying not to fail. I am afraid of failure. I'm trying to overcome that. I admit it. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
My life has been like, I'm Asian. Come on. You know how Asian parents raise their kids. You're not supposed to get a 97. You need to get 100, or maybe 105 if that exists.
Well, I hope you make it far.
I'll have no doubt she will. You've already won so many. Like you're so
Yep.
successful already. So, and you have to remember too, I know you guys have all heard of Ryan Cahill. He's like the biggest name in India right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think he entered SPFBO9 and he didn't even make it to semifinals. So just because you
He was
don't
in
make
my
it,
group, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't even make it to semifinals. So it doesn't have anything to do with you as an author. It has nothing to do with your writing. Sometimes it's just if the judge just isn't really vibing well with your book, they can just kind of set it aside.
Yeah.
So, that's just kind of the way it is sometimes with art. So
That's actually a really good point because I think now that you mentioned, like he and I were both in the same group in that year, and I made it to semifinals. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm no Ryan Cahill. I'm not like that book has not even like it does not sell well. I mean, I'm proud of it and everything, and I didn't necessarily promote it that much, which is part of why it wasn't selling as well and everything. But like. It's genuinely, there are so many different factors, which I think is part of why I'm close with a couple people who have been finalists before, and I've heard from them a lot that like the ones that like have pressure on them before they get to finals, the reason that can be so stressful is often because of how many factors it can really come down to. Like there are a bunch of people who like have had a lot of like pressure on them, and then they get cut, and that can like fuck them up. And then there's the swear.
There you go.
and then there are people who do have a lot of pressure on them, and then they get to be a finalist, and then suddenly you've got so many eyes on you, and that in itself, everyone I've talked to who's been a finalist has said that after getting into finals, you just kind of got to block out a couple months to be debilitated. So like there's not really like. I think that's the toughest part of the contest is just like how there's so much of it that's kind of unknown and you can't really predict.
very luck based. A lot of it can be.
And even when you're nominally doing good, there's going to be huge challenges that can come with that.
Yeah, there's probably another anxiety that comes after winning or making finalists as well. I have a friend, a reader actually from Wattpad, and Wattpad has this annually competition. It's a huge competition called the Watties, and then she won it, and her book went from 600K reads to 5 million in a week.
Oh shit.
After winning. She was offered a movie deal. She was offered
Oh
a
man.
publication deal, and that put so much stress on her that she actually stopped writing, and she pulled that book out of Wattpad. She just stopped, and this has been 3 years, and she said she can't write anymore.
Oh man.
Yeah,
So-
I feel that.
It's tough. The pressure is tough because I mean, especially on Wattpad where you get comments. I'm Obsidian is on Wattpad, and you get comments on everything you do, every paragraph. If they hate it, if they love it, every chapter you get feedback. And sometimes when you get that many eyes on your book, you get really bad feedback sometimes from people who sometimes just are jealous and just looking for something.
Yeah.
And she can't handle it. She's a very sensitive writer. That's why her book is so good. And she can't handle it on top of everything else in her life. She emailed me. She said, you know, I have to stop. And she closed her account completely. From Wattpad, so you cannot touch her book now. She pulled it completely. Yeah. So I feel really sad that we lost a really good writer who has so much potential. Till today, she said she cannot write another book.
Oh man.
It's scary when you think about it like that. You gotta be tough as well to win and to face fame. You know, it can do things to you if you're not tough enough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've known a couple people who have started doing really well, just either because of this contest or like outside of it, and it can be really tough. I think the thing I've heard most about just privately, I think, is usually envy. Like just knowing that there are other people, it's like, are they contacting me because they're actually a huge fan of my work, or do they want my connections and everything like that, or want me to boost them because I have a huge platform? And that can just be a huge mind fuck. Like you can just like it can be really hard to trust yourself and everything. Oh man, it's such a minefield to sort of navigate that. I mean, not that I speak from experience or anything, but I've seen it happen every now and then.
And that's kind of a weird thing about self-publishing, right? Because it is a small niche audience, but on a large scale, even a niche audience is very big.
Oh yeah.
And so when you're living in that world, like I wouldn't call Ryan Cahill famous to the average person.
Yeah.
But if you're talking somebody who knows self-published fantasy, they know exactly who that is. They know who he looks like. They've either read his books or seen his interviews or something like that. And so there's this weird fame, but only in this very niche community. So you're not famous, but when you're in certain spaces, you are.
Yeah.
That must be so weird.
Yeah. Man.
And that's not a question, so I'll follow up with a question. So with all of this, and you know, we're all self-published authors in the competition, why did you decide to go indie? Why, you know, what are the benefits to being an indie author? Why this path? Connor, you want to start us off?
I initially tried querying, and I think I went with I queried in 2020, which was probably my first mistake. Like in March of 2020. So it was just the worst timing. And the thing that I noticed while querying them was, the first thing was that I did not handle that uncertainty and the wait times well, because I could not plan anything out of like how I wanted to move post querying, because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was completely like unable to write for most of that year, just because I couldn't figure out what to write, because I didn't know where to go from there. But the other thing that started happening was I was getting some really interesting rejection letters. Like I got one from there was like a big New York agent called Richard Curtis, who my editor put me in touch with. And he sent me a personalized rejection, like, this book is really good. It's just outside of what we published though. And that was the kind of rejection letters I was getting. At the time it was tailored, it was like, this is great, I love it, but also we don't have a niche for you. And so eventually I just sort of realized, like, okay, the people in indie seem like they're pretty adaptable. It seems like they can put out stuff they want at their own pace. If something isn't working, they can kind of divert course and go in a new direction. It seems like it's a bit slower, a bit more tailor-made. But but a lot of that was like that started to appeal to me the more I looked into it. And like one of the things that was the biggest appeal was at the time I was reaching out to basically anyone in the industry who had DMs open on Twitter, just so I could just pick their brain, because I just wanted to know everything about this industry. And a lot of the people who I could actually talk to were in indie. So I was like, okay, so obviously if I want to get any kind of support or like any kind of like help or get to know people, this is probably where I want to start. And that was, I think those were like the biggest factors in my decision to go indie with it.
Yeah. How about we'll switch up order a little bit. Faye?
I wasn't even going to publish to begin with. I've been writing in the closet for like 30 years. I started sharing on the internet for free, probably just the last 15, maybe, starting with fan fiction and then posting my originals on Wattpad. And I've just been lucky to get a lot of readers who want to see it published. And so I do what they tell me to. And so since everyone wanted me to query, they want to see this being, in the hands of one of the big five, I say, okay, I'll query. So I did query for, I don't think even a year, because along the way, I got several full requests. Most of my rejections were for it being too long. Obsidian is 160K. And most of them will just reject it from that, just too many words. Just go cut your words and resubmit. And I'm not gonna cut any of this. I have a lot of readers who say it's perfectly fine as it is, and I can't do that to my readers, to my fans, for ruin my book to be published. So I decided to just query like that anyway. I got maybe 5 full requests, and there's a long time of wait after full request, because they have to read the entire manuscript, right? And I got impatient as well. There's a lot of stress while you have to wait, and it's been 4 months, 6 months, and I felt like, this is a waste of my time. I don't want to do this anymore, and it's eating up my self-respect and stuff. I'm tired of begging, and so I moved to self-publishing. I said, fuck it. Yeah, there's my first.
We need a little ticker in the corner
Yes.
for however many F-bombs everybody drops.
I'll edit that in post.
Cool.
Yeah. And also, this is quite an inspiring story, and I want to shout out to Richard Nell as well. That was when I read his book. I reached out to him about how much I loved it. He gave me a very, powerful point of view about indie publishing. And he was the one who convinced me that if I'm suffering this much, I should just self-pub proudly. And that changed my life really, because that just takes all the weight out of my chest. Once I did everything. I am right now a business owner myself. I have been for decades. And it's even more painful for me as a business owner to have, this is a business, and I'm begging one to publish my book. I'm usually the one picking people to work for me, and it was painful.
Yeah.
So I decided to do that. It just feels so much better, and I think I gained new skills. I gained readers, even though that not as many as I hoped for yet. I gain another business, I gain self-respect, and I don't think it gets any better than that, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than money. I mean, there's not that much money in book business, you have to admit. It's a piss poor way of making a living for how much time you have to put into each book. If you think about it, we get paid less than a janitor for the hours that we have to work on it and the effort. So I don't think that was the calling to begin with. And I think that's the best thing about going indie, is you feel really proud.
Yeah.
HC, can you follow that up?
Yeah, so the biggest reason that I went self-pub is because querying fucking sucks. I had to add one. It sucks. I hated it. I've sent like 5 letters and I was like, I'm done with this. I felt like I was interviewing for jobs. It was awful. So I pushed that to the side because I was lazy and I didn't like doing it. And then I also found out that whenever you traditionally publish, you kind of sign the rights to your book away, and they can pick and choose what they want cut, what they want added, if you have to change characters. And I'm with Faye on this. I'm not changing my book. Like, I spent 10 years writing this thing. So if you don't like it, I'm just going to take it somewhere else. I'm not giving anyone else any creative freedom over it. But the biggest thing for me, aside from those two, I guess it's like the third biggest thing, is deadlines. Because I never force myself to write, and I never put myself on a deadline, because I would rather take like 2-3 years to write a really good book than push it out in 6 months just to have it out, and it's not as good as it could be. So those were the 3 biggest reasons. I was lazy, I have a big ego, and I can't rush myself.
And you paint yourself in
High
such
five.
beautiful lights.
What was that, James?
I said you paint yourself in such beautiful lights with those comments.
I mean, we're just gonna get down to it. That's really the bottom line.
I can't be
But don't
forced to
forget
write
honest. You're
either.
very honest as well.
Well, you know, it's the truth. We all know it.
Yes. So having said all that, and I think HC may have just answered my next question, but we've recently seen books like The Lost War and the Combat Codes get traditionally published, and they were former SPFBO finalists. So if you become a finalist or you win this competition and you get approached by a traditional publisher and get offered a publishing deal, are you taking it? So I don't know, Faye, would you take it if they came to you with a publishing deal?
It depends. I'd like to hope that winning SPFBO would move my book enough so that I don't have to spend so much time marketing it anymore and just go right. If that happens, they're gonna have to approach me with a sum that is enough to pay off my pool villa and a 40-foot yacht that I want, and then we'll talk.
That's a fair
It's
answer.
gonna have to be big enough for me to allow me to quit my job and then write and just write with
Gotta get
freedom,
the dump truck
which I don't
full
think
of
that's gonna happen if I win SPFBO. But and on the other hand, if I win, it's still quiet, that figure might come down a bit because I do need time to write. And right now, that marketing side of it, you know, handling everything that they would probably do for me, is taking away that time. But I'm not that hungry for a trad pop deal unless it clearly benefits me in terms of my time, giving me more time to write. Yeah. And my price is pretty high. I am a business owner. You're gonna pay me a lot for me to sell my business. This is my business now. And I think like all business owners, you expect a pretty big number if someone is going to take it over because it just became successful. Here's something that I'm curious about, people who win and then go give somebody that cut, because usually it's gotta be a huge cut.
Yeah.
If your business is successful and you're gonna sell it. So yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, HC. I think we might know your thoughts already.
I agree with her. It's going to take a lot for me to sell out because, like I said, they can take my story and they're probably going to republish it from the beginning, and they can tell me to change anything they want. And that would be really hard, but also turning down a bunch of money would also be really hard. So I would have to definitely make sure that I read the contract and we come to some sort of compromise with that. But it really does just depend, because I want to say no, but at the same time, if they're like handing me 6 figures and they're like, here's a 6-book deal for this much, take it and we'll give this. I'm not going to say that I would say no to that. I would want to,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I would.
And then Connor?
It would depend, I think. On like, I don't think my price would be anywhere near as steep as anyone else's, mostly because I have a very different relationship to what a lot of money is for me. I'm on disability benefits, so like I make that work. It gives me a lot of time to write, so I love that. But also like my idea of a lot of money is like 20K or something for like a year. Like it's not. I would so like I feel like I would go for a much lower offer if I felt like it was more than I could probably get on my own. And the other thing that would be tempting is I would love if I could it would depend on the agent who approached me, because I wouldn't want to just sign with anyone. I want to make sure I would be signing with the right person. But like I think I would need some kind of representation if I wanted to break into some like other sort of markets, like comics. Comics is something I've always wanted to break into. And it's like I feel like I would need that kind of contact in order to do that. So it's one of those things where it's like, if someone approaches me, it's definitely something I'm thinking about. It would depend on like how well I'm selling now and how well I think I'm going to be able to sell in the future. Because after your round as a finalist is over, that drops off significantly, at least from what I've seen from other finalists. And then you got to get another book out pretty quick if you want to keep up that momentum. So a lot of it would depend on that and how much they would be offering in comparison to how much I thought I could get with my current setup, and what that whoever approached me could do in terms of breaking into other markets.
It's a business decision, isn't it? It comes down to that, because you have to know what you're worth, what you can do, and then compare it with that figure, really, and the freedom you're given and what you're not willing to give up as well. And I think it can, we all probably, those companies can probably strike a line, a compromise somewhere if they really want your book. So I think it's very important for indie authors to stand their ground when they're approached, and it's up to us to change something about the industry, to take that power back from the publishing company a little bit, especially if you're someone who just wants SPFBO. I mean, you have that power to change a lot of things for other writers after you.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I feel like if I were gonna consider it, I would think about that as well.
Yeah.
I think you also have to think about, are you going to be a top tier listing book on whatever publisher, whatever their calendar is? Because you can be published by a major top 5 but still not get promotion. You can be published and just kind of put out there. So what kind of reach are they giving you? Are they pushing you with one of their biggest submissions? Are they pushing you because you need to have your publisher submit your name to try to get on a New York Times bestseller list and things like that? They don't just do that by raw numbers. That's your publisher pushing. So it's also how much push are they going to be giving you?
I think KVOSO got a really good deal. I think I don't have like a ton of information on it, but from what she's told me, I'm trying to figure out what I'm allowed to share. From what I've heard from KVOSO, I think her Bitch Queen trilogy got at least a decent deal. Probably should not share specific numbers or anything. But the thing that was really interesting to me was they agreed to publish all 3 books. And she took I think one of the reasons she took the deal, if I'm remembering correctly, was she knew that it would vastly expand her audience, because the huge difference with trad is they're just going for a wide audience and just hoping something sticks enough, as opposed to indie, which is usually trying to laser target a very niche audience. So I think Kay went because of the expanded reach of the kind of audience she could contact and get in touch with and everything. And she got to keep her rights. So if like the book went out of print traditionally, she'd still be able to continue publishing them and like do sequels and other stuff with the same characters without having to go through a publisher if they didn't want to publish it.
And to speak on, I think, AC and Faye's point a little bit, didn't she have to change her series title from the Bitch Queen series to something else?
It's to the Wolf Queen.
Was it?
Yeah, it's Chronicles of the Wolf Queen.
Still...
Is
it in like a...
And I think that may have been, I thought I saw her tweet, and I could be completely wrong, but I thought it was an Amazon issue. I thought Amazon.
I think it might have been, because I remember seeing on Amazon
Queen.
they had to put a little asterisk under the I in bitch at one point when I first saw it. I thought that was so funny.
You can get away with that on Amazon?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, okay.
But although, I feel like I don't want to like overhype trad, because like there's also like I have heard experiences from other people who like will submit books and it'll be like this is I don't know, like they can get, I've heard stories like it can get too queer, or it's not like white enough or something. It can get really fucked up. It can get messy as well, and it's like that can also like, oh fuck, it can get heartbreaking and everything.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of things to consider, let's say.
Yeah.
But given that we're all still indie authors right now, let's take some time to plug what you got working on outside of SPFBO. What's next for everybody? Faye, what's next for you? What books down the pipeline?
Book 2. I'm only ever gonna write and publish Obsidian, so don't expect anything else from me. This could go on for 10 books. I'm not sure. I'm not a planner. I just keep writing. But in the foreseeable future of maybe the next 10 years, you just have to deal with me writing only the installments of Obsidian. And book 2 is almost done, so I'm hoping to publish sometimes towards the end of the year.
Nice. Well, a lot of people will be excited to hear that. HC, what do you got?
My third book in my series is coming out. I had about a 7-week break where I just could not figure it out because it's right in the middle of my series, so you have to make sure it flows. So I'm getting back into it. I'm hoping to have it finished in about 2 weeks. I'm not rushing myself. That's just kind of the timeline I'm estimating. I'm literally just pulling it out of the air. I think it'll be 2 weeks. So hopefully it'll be published by August or September, which is really exciting. And then I'm gonna take a break, take a good long break, because this book has been kicking my butt.
Connor?
I have the audiobook for The Fall Is All There Is coming out probably like in a few days, probably sometime next week. I don't actually know because I've hit publish on it. I'm just waiting for Audible to confirm, but it can take like up to 10 days. It was submitted on June 8th, so it's probably whatever 10 business days from June 8th would be, is probably around the time it'll be published. And I will have 25 US and UK promo links for any kind of reviewers, so that's going to be really cool. And apart from that, I'm also working on the sequel to that book, and it is kicking my ass. Oh god, I'm on like the third draft, but like each draft I've cut like the first draft I cut like 95% of what I ended up writing, and then the next draft I cut like I'm cutting like 70%, and now I'm planning for the third one, and I think I've got it this time, but that's also what I thought the other 2 times, so we'll see.
Well, by the time this podcast comes out, it sounds like your audiobook will be out, so
Yeah.
people check that out if you're into audiobooks. So is it exclusive to Amazon and Audible?
Yeah.
Okay, check it out on Audible.
Yeah.
But with that, I think we're going to transition into our Dragonfire segment.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Now it's time for our Dragonfire segment. So for our new viewers and listeners, Dragonfire is the part of the episode where we just do a quick rundown of as many questions as we can get through in, I don't know, about 20 minutes. So we have 3 minutes per question. So to start us off with, this is for everyone else except me because I'm the only non-author in the group. But let's say that your book is picked up for a film adaptation. Would you rather you get the big bells and whistles Marvel budget, but you get the worst just B-level actors? Or would you rather go for a smaller budget indie movie, but you get access to your dream actors? So HC, we'll start with you.
So you get awful actors, but good budget?
Yeah, or no budget, but you get any actor you want.
Oh, good actors. Bad actors are gonna ruin it. Doesn't matter how good everything else is. So good actors. That's what I'm picking. They're not gonna be famous though. I don't like them.
I misunderstood this question. I thought you were just like anyone who's not famous, like they did with like the sequel trilogy with Star Wars or something.
That's what I thought. You said B-list.
No, I would say-
calculation. I was gonna be like, how the
B-level
fuck are you gonna
actors
do
are, like,
cyborg
just not
horses without a
famous.
Marvel budget? But that changes it.
Yeah, I'm saying same.
Oh, this is a trash fire for me either way. You're gonna have like a fucking like horse made of sticks and wood or some shit.
But the
Like,
acting will be good. They'll
a
sell it.
disassembled garbage can just layered in there somewhere.
Now listen.
The more I'm talking about it, the more I love this. Actually, I want to see it really cheap. Like this person clearly made this in their backyard, but they got like a Shakespearean level actor to perform it on like they're filming on a potato. I love this. I'm choosing that option. That sounds so.
Paranormal Activity was indie. It had like no budget, and that was a really good movie.
Oh,
They did
wow.
really good with that. So you can make really good movies with no budget. And Blair Witch, I think, had no budget.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So they have some pretty good movies out there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how well fantasy with magic in it would do, but the
I mean, you
Found
have
footage
enough
works pretty
after
well.
effects. You can like fuck around with that.
Faye.
Definitely dream actors. I mean, Obsidian is extremely character driven. So you can probably do this right on a stage with nothing at all, just a bunch of really great actors who can bring this to life. I mean, it would be, my setting is probably look really good with a lot of budget, but that is secondary to what this book is about. So I would definitely have to go with big and getting an A-list actor is marketing in itself. You don't need a lot of budget for that.
That is true. You will make
You
your
have
money back whether
fantastic
it's good or not.
sense. That's
They
really
have fun.
smart, actually.
You're
You're thinking
Yeah,
about this on a level that I'm not even at. That's incredible. That's such a good calculation.
I
That
mean,
is so
much
smart.
of the movie budget goes into the actors anyway, right?
That's
Yeah.
true.
So in a way, that isn't even possible.
So true.
For me, I'm just thinking about like a lot. My magic system is similar to, I would say, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm just thinking about the movie of the Avatar: The Last Airbender and how horrible that magic looked. And I'm like, do I really want rocks just like a few pebbles kind of floating up and be like, "Ooh, magic"?
Hey, the
It would
acting in
be
that
so
movie was horrible
distracting.
too, though. So
If you're going
You got
by the movie version of The Last Airbender, technically that would also make your book look really great in comparison. And it could be so bad that it has its own level of marketing appeal for your book.
There you go.
it's so funny that you mentioned Avatar, because when you said horrible actors, the first thing I thought of was the Ember Island players. And I was like, horrible actors may not be so bad.
Yeah, James, with your book, I don't remember if you remember that like a few years ago in TikTok, it was the trend where people are doing like the earth, the air, fire, but they would like just light like a little lighter for fire, and they would like throw leaves up in the air. Like that's what I'm imagining your low budget movie looks like.
Oh my goodness.
But it'll be all A-list actors. Like Viola Davis is in it, trying to do her damnedest.
Throwing leaves at everybody.
You got like someone's
Yeah.
holding a lighter just under the camera, just slowly inching it across.
Well, there's evidence to this because the series, the C drama Eternal Love, I'm not sure if you've heard of it. That's it has 70 billion views.
Oh wow.
It's with A-list actors,
Wow.
and his poor effect. I'm telling you, it's horrible. It's like something you made out of college while learning the 3D class or something. But yeah, it's got 7, and that was one of the best series I've watched in my life, worth that 70 billion views. Brilliant actors and
Oh, those things
amazing.
can be addictive, those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the effects throughout was horrible. I had to close my
Yeah.
eyes sometimes. And I was like, oh my God, this is an embarrassment to
That's like when
China.
it just
Come
becomes
on,
an audiobook. and you-
somebody redo this because it's now a really famous series.
Oh my god.
All right. So next round, and there's no cheating on this, okay? So I want you to shout out an SPFBO9 author who isn't here, but you get one. You get one.
Oh.
You have to pick. You
I had
can't.
two.
You can't play. I love everybody, and I'm gonna pick these 3 people. No, you get one. So choose your darling. Who's it gonna be, Connor?
I'm going with Jamie Jackson, who wrote The Sparrow and the Oak Tree, which is a retelling of Tristan and Isolde, which is one of my favorite Arthurian things. So that's what I'm going with.
HC.
I'm gonna give it to my brother Sadir. I know he's not gonna listen. He's gonna pretend that he listened, but he won't. Let's go to Sadir. Read the crew. It's great.
Faye.
It's I'm gonna shout out Raina Nightingale for selfish reasons because she is my biggest fan. She has been the biggest cheerleader for me, and also because we are always on the same page about everything. I love the way she thinks. I love how she understands my work so deeply. She picks up everything, which also tells me that she is a very promising writer. I have yet to have time to read her books. I really have no time between marketing and writing and running a business. But yeah, I would have to shout her out for that reason. And if I don't win, I would want one of my biggest readers to win. I'm selfish that way.
I'm gonna shout out Andrew D. Meredith. I honestly have not gotten a chance to read his books, but as a person and as a supporter and as a community member in the indie field, in the indie community, he's amazing. He's a really great community member, and he does his own audiobooks, which I think is really cool. I hate to shout him out though, because he's also in my my judging group. So if he does well, I do poorly. So maybe I take that back. I hope he does poorly.
Well, if he gets
One
to the
read it.
finalists, he knows who to thank.
Yeah.
Nathan, who are you
Yeah,
shouting
I
at?
should have researched who was in all of your groups, because like, what was it, a couple episodes ago I was really hyping an author, and then I realized they were in James's group as well.
Yeah.
So I should have
You need to
researched that. I made
stop
sure I wasn't
doing
picking
that.
any of your competition.
You're
But
really
yeah, I'll
stacking the
shout,
odds against
Stop
him.
doing that.
yeah, I'll shout out Benjamin Averin for Salt in the Wound. I really love that book. It's a post-apocalyptic book about these creatures that will murder you if you get trapped out in the rain, and I absolutely fell in love with that book, as well as the prequel novella. So I'll shout out him for my pick. Again, I don't know if he's in any of your groups. James, is he in your group? Did I do this again?
No.
Okay.
you
He might be in my group, but I don't remember. I'm like, he might be in my group, or it might just be a book I've heard of before. I can't remember which. I'll check
That's
after
it.
we're done
I
here,
think
and
for
if
the
it's
author.
true, I'll come back and like yell at you in DMs or something. I'll DM you to be really mad about it or something if he's in my group.
Just join the comment section on YouTube and start bashing
I
Nathan
can't
for
believe
picking it.
this. Yeah, download it.
All right, Nathan,
All right.
you want to introduce the next question?
Yeah, so for our next topic, we want to know, what is the best classic monster? So we're not talking like creatures or like, magical creatures. We're talking monsters like vampires, mummies, sirens, etc. It doesn't have to be Western or European based, but what is the best fantasy or classic monster.
So you mean like humanoid, basically?
That's
Is that what you
not necessarily humanoid,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Are
Just like a
ghosts
dragon
or
would be like a
demons?
beast, so probably not like dragons or things like that.
What about like spiritual entities like demons that
Yeah.
aren't beast
Yeah.
form, but those are pretty cool and scary.
Okay, so we get demons from HC.
I gotta go with
Of course, that's what I would choose.
It's on brand.
I'm doing vampires because they are easily the sexiest and most versatile monster out there. They have just the most wide-ranging thematic potential. I think you can do like the most. It's the monster you can do just anything with, whatever spin you want to take on it.
Vampires are definitely up there for me too.
Vampires are vampires demons? Can you count them as demons?
I count them more as
And
like
they're the undead, but I
Undead,
don't know
yeah.
if they're demons.
They're like a gray area or something like that.
Yeah. Faye, do you have a favorite classical monster?
I would have to say humans.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, look at her thinking outside the box.
Deep cut.
I haven't found anything that beats what we are or what we can become. And I find that's the most interesting tale to tell when you really face what
Man,
we
this
can do.
Yeah.
This is getting like an I Am Legend kind of spin of like we are the monster the whole time. Every monster story ends with a human killing it. So is the human not the monster the whole time?
That brings us back to the first sci-fi book ever, Frankenstein. The monster is Dr. Frankenstein, not his monster.
Yeah.
So, you definitely got some backup there. I'm going to be petty and say werewolves, just for a shout out to NC Kausis. And just say
Who's
werewolves.
not here?
Boo,
Yeah.
werewolves, boo.
What I'm hearing is you weren't Team Jacob.
I've never
Already
seen
said you
or
think
read.
Edward.
Oh, they're great as like the movies. They're fantastic. They're like atrocious and they're really great if you want to like watch something just to dunk on it for a while. They're fantastic. I highly recommend them as like a group viewing party kind of a thing. If you need
Okay.
something to riff on, it's fantastic.
I feel like I might need some help with that, of the medicinal variety.
I was about to say, get some good oregano.
Oh man.
Nathan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go vampires as well. Just because I think there's so much diversity in how you can do it. Like you have like the really just like animalistic kind of vampires.
Ben Sparkles.
Yeah, you have the ones that sparkle. The new Interview with a Vampire adaptation, the TV show that they just did, was like a really interesting spin on like queer romance vampires.
Oh, I need to check it out. I didn't know they actually did that.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't
super
know they went
100%
there.
explicitly in your face queer.
Oh my god, I need
yeah.
to check it out. Holy shit.
Yeah. Like vampire gay sex scene in like the first episode.
What?
Like, yeah,
Wow.
like definitely check it out. Yeah.
The best thing.
Connor just logs off right now.
Yeah, no, immediately.
It's like run. It's
Listen to
actually
you
it's
in the
really well
background.
done. I loved it. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Nice. So what's the next one? So, all right, Faye, this is going to be hard for you since you already just told us you're always going to be writing in Obsidian. You are forced to write outside of science fiction and fantasy. What genre are you writing, Faye?
A self-help guide on how to survive horrible writing advice.
Man, you have the best answers to all
I
of
would
these
read that.
questions. Seriously.
Yeah. I feel like now you need to write that.
Yeah.
She
No,
needs to quit going first. No one can ever beat her.
I just have to compile everything I've said on Twitter, probably. I've been like bookmarking my own tweets. It's just gonna go into a book.
it's just screenshots. Just each page is a tweet.
Yeah. Because I've always been writing in the closet. Like I've said, I've never actually talked to other writers. And the moment I started sharing my book, I received very good feedback. I became popular fast.
Yeah.
And so I have proofs that the way, a lot of things people say, just that's not what makes a good writer. I've never heard of most of these advices before. I've been doing things my way, and I feel like a lot of it just stops people from being creative and from writing from the heart, from where their passion really lies. I think that it ruins a lot of creativity, and I'm not happy with that. The way most of them have a point, but the way it's been presented, it's just misleading everybody. And even me, who's been writing for 30 years, got derailed by some of those. It sticks in your mind.
That happened to me
Sticks in
too.
your mind. It doesn't let you go easily. I have to clear it out of my mind before I write. There's just all these voices. Once you start listening, even when you say you disagree, those voices are in your head. It interferes with what you write. And I feel like that it takes a skill to survive that and come out with a book that you really want to read and that you really don't care what anybody has to say. So so a survival guide for writers is what I want to really sit down and write, and maybe contribute that to, so we can have more passionate writers who are just really want to create and not to fit in.
Yeah.
The saddest thing I see is every now and then I'll see someone on Twitter in a writing community almost asking permission to use a trope, being like, I know that this is overdone, but would anyone mind if I put the chosen one? And fuck it, if you like it, put it in there. Come on, have a good time.
You need to write for yourself.
I get annoyed so much by that.
If anything you put out there could make there be less of that, I think that would make the world a much better place.
Well, Connor, what's your answer? What are you writing outside of science fiction fantasy?
Probably either romance or erotica, honestly. Mostly because that sounds like the people who those readers are fucking vicious and terrifying. So I'm like, let me stick a toe in there. Let's see how that goes.
They're also voracious. They'll read book. Book.
The thing that's that I really think is really interesting about romance is the idea that it's you have to stick to the HEA. I think that's how the happily ever after thing.
Yeah.
And, there are a lot of beats that you have to hit, and the best writers in that genre hit every single beat you can expect out of a romance book, but it's also the most sort of tense thing you're ever reading. You're just on the edge of your seat the whole time. I know how this turns out. I know how this is gonna end. Why am I so in doubt right now? Holy shit.
I have to say that's not true though, Connor. I have been a romance writer. I'm not even sure I'm qualified to call it romance, but I have been writing love stories for a long time, and they are bitches. But the readers are bitches, I can tell you that. But it's not necessary at all that you have to hit all those marks. You just have to drive them emotionally.
Really?
Yes, because I'm a tragic ending lover. I drag my readers through tragedies, and I will kill one's dearest to your heart, make you cry and everything. And if you think about Nicholas Sparks, almost all his books are really tragic. They're like Romeo and Juliet ending, which everybody thinks is a tragic ending, right? I think it's the best HEA ever, because you're dying. The point of romance is love, and you're dying for love. Why is that not a happy ending? That is a goal reached. And I think in the end, people say they hate it, but that's marketing. They will cry and they will scream and they will complain to their 10 friends and their grandmothers how much they hate that ending because they love this MC so much and he dies. And that is, in the end, that makes a really popular book. I've been popular because I'm heavy-handed with my MCs and I write tragic endings. So that is actually not true. When you do write romance, go for it.
I see people getting so vicious I'm falling victim to the same thing. I'm seeing people getting so vicious over the happily ever
Yeah, but
after
that,
thing.
you
I'm
see, that's marketing.
like,
That's really good business when you get
Yeah.
people really hyped up and talk about your book, even with so much hatred. But I mean, if you can create so much pain, it means that you've done something right. They have to love your book, your characters, to feel that hate, right?
we're so
Very
smart.
true.
Holy shit.
Just nobody cut clips of Faye when she's like, no, I'm vicious, I kill people. That's out of context. Don't cut that clip.
We're just
Oh
gonna
my
play
God.
it every 5 minutes through the whole video.
Yeah. I will also, James, I'll take this opportunity since we're talking about romance to give my weekly shout out to JD Evans, because I've
There you
been
go.
slacking on that. I usually shout her out every episode. So, she's a former SPFBO winner and also writes great
Oh, she's
romantic
fantastic.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so HC, what was your answer for non-SFF book that you would write?
I'd probably do horror. I mean, that kind of is in the fantasy genre because it would probably be more supernatural. But I'm really good at writing horror. And I'm really good at being immersive with the visualization and stuff like that, the imagery, I guess. So I don't know. Also, I really like tragedy too, which is what Faye was talking about. And to just kind of piggyback off of her, for me, when it comes to tragic stories, they stick with you. And you keep thinking about them. Like when you have a happily ever after, that's great and it's awesome, but it doesn't leave you feeling anything because you're just satisfied. Like if somebody dies or if someone gets a limb cut off or if you don't know their fate or if they go their separate ways, you ache and you hurt for them and you think about it. So that also goes into horror as well. And so I would definitely write horror.
You're all mean people.
We love
It leaves
tragedy.
you scars, and you want to scar readers so they remember you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that not logic?
All right. So moving
Scar
on.
my happy stories.
For our next question, so you get to co-author a book with a previous SPFBO finalist. Who are you picking and why? HC, we'll start with you.
I don't know all of the finalists. I would probably pick a semi-finalist, which is Zach Argyle. And if I'm
Who's a
being really
finalist?
honest,
He was a finalist.
Yeah, finalist. Yep.
oh, he was a finalist.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool. He is really awesome. He's really talented. He's really popular. So having my name tied with his would be really good in a lot of ways. But I mean, just on a professional level, I think it would be really cool to work with him because I think I would learn a whole lot. Like I said, he's so nice and he's so giving. So I think that, I don't know, it would be really good and positive in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Connor?
Connor.
What I love about this question is it's not even a thought exercise for me because it's actually a thing that I'm working on. I will be, I think this summer, if everything goes well, I will be teaming up to co-write something with Quenby Olson.
Okay.
We haven't started it yet, but I had some tweet a couple months ago about an idea I had for a book or with a magic system revolving around near-death experiences, and how given the kind of shit I write, I could make it extremely weird and just trippy and insane. And I was like, no one can do it as weird as I can do it. And then Quen commented to be like, and see, if I was doing that, I'd make it a Regency romance. And I was like, well, can we do both? And then like a little while later, I actually reached out. I was like, was that a joke? Because I would genuinely like to do both. I think that sounds actually pretty fantastic. And it actually became a thing literally earlier today. She contacted me to give me some homework on the couple books that she wanted me to read, so that I know what I'm getting into. And so I'm really excited about that. I have no idea what it's going to be beyond that. And it's our writings, our processes are so different in that Quen will just write like a draft, and by the time it's done, usually there's not a lot of revising to be done. And I will plan out like a 30,000 word outline, write like write it out to 50,000 words in a month and then chuck 90% of that and then go to write a completely different book out of the 10% that I have left. And then like after I do that 5 more times, finally I'm like, oh, this is what I wanted to say. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how these completely wildly different styles of like figuring out how to write a book will mesh. It's going to be very chaotic because every time we talk about process, one of us goes into existential dread.
Faye.
I can't co-write a book with anybody. One of us will die. That will be World War III. Seriously, I'm very decisive on what I want from a book. I am too used to writing for me that I have no room, even from a reader who loves my book, to add to it. It's writing is like that for me. I mean, I can do all sorts of things with other people, but this is something that I probably will never do. So if you force me to, that person will suffer. You don't want it's not
So
gonna be
the
me.
question is, who do you
It's
want to
gonna be
punish?
that person who suffers. That's a victim.
You could write about their tragedy working with you.
Yeah.
It's an autobiography
the
of
book you're
attempting
gonna
to
get.
write a book.
How I killed this previous SPFBO finalist.
You're like
Again,
that person,
do
like how to
not,
murder your husband.
not
and
cut
wait
that
for the
clip.
person,
Yeah.
but like it's the previous finalists.
You know, if I were to do it, I would say ML Wong.
Oh, that's a
Mainly
good pick.
because I want to learn how she writes battle scenes with such emotion and effectiveness. Like, I don't know that I've read battle scenes that are as emotional and well done, while still carrying forward the action as well as she does. And that's what really stuck out to me about, you know, the Sword of Kaigan. And so I would want to learn from her.
Yeah, her new book comes out in like July, right?
Oh, does
Oh,
it?
it does.
I want to
I
say it
think,
does.
yeah, I
mean,
think
I
you're
might
right.
be-
I remember seeing some promotion about it a couple days
yeah,
ago.
July 25th.
Oh my
Nice.
god,
It's called Blood Over Brighthaven. Yeah,
that's such a good title.
Is it in the same universe?
I don't
think
think so.
it's
I think
YA.
I think
Okay.
she said that she's done with that universe. It was
Interesting.
something like, and I mean, if she has a blog post about it, and I recommend everybody check it out. But if I'm paraphrasing, so I might be getting this a little wrong, but it was something about she didn't like that her book was essentially about how problematic the concept of race is and colonialism, but yet her magic system is very much rooted in that, like, these people over here have this magic because of their race, and these people over here. And she said that like the whole world was just broken compared to the themes that she was trying to convey. So that's why she was like, she just couldn't return to it, at least with where she was at as an author. She has a blog post about it somewhere that I read like
Gotcha.
when the book came out.
Well, we have one last question of Dragonfire. I'm gonna change the wording a little bit because I think there's an obvious answer as is. What is the laziest way to do world building? I'm gonna say, what is the laziest way to try to hide info dumps? Does anybody want to start?
How do you
I
hide
think
info dump?
Dialogue.
Connor?
I think dialogue is like
Dialogue?
when you have one character giving a lecture to another character for like paragraphs and paragraphs, and it's just like one-sided, and the other character is just sitting there slack-jawed, and this dude's just going on and on about history that like they don't even care about. It doesn't even make sense that they'd care about with their backstory, but they're still like, well, I did all this cool world building and I want the reader to know it, so I'm gonna make this dude into my mouthpiece for all the cool history and shit of this world. And like they're just traveling through this town for like 10 pages. It doesn't come up again. Why are you doing this?
But it's even worse when the person they're bouncing off of goes like, and what else? And that's their only
Yes.
dialogue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Or like whenever they like try to shoehorn in like that they're like an actual student and they're like in a history class for them just to be able to do world building, that happens a lot more than you think, like when you start to look for it, like in the Poppy War, where they're just a student and that's how they get to have the like the lecture and they get to like play dumb. Yeah.
Has anyone seen the sci-fi channel adaptation of the Earthsea movies?
No.
Don't. It's terrible. And it does that. Like they're literally talking about like there's a dragon and it's like, oh wow, okay, have to find its true name. Oh, its true name, you mean the thing that you can use to bind it to you forever? Yeah. It's like, oh god. It's just, this is shit that they had already talked about. They just think that you're stupid and you're gonna forget it. So I just have the most like ham-fisted reminders of these two people talking about, and like it goes on for a while. Like they sound out of breath by the end of it. It's like, what are you doing? It's like it's atrocious. It's the perfect movie for like everything you don't want to do in anything that's fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how else you can hide info dumps. Like, I don't know. I mean, on the flip side of what
reading from a book in the book.
Yeah. Epigraphs, reading from a book. What else? Oh, student teacher dynamic, like mentor dynamics. It always comes like the student knows nothing about magic in their world, and so the mentor must lecture to them.
Yeah, that's all dialogue.
Except the farm boy who's just never taken a history
farm boy
class or something.
Yeah.
On the flip side though, it could be a really clever, good way that I like to include kind of like hiding the info dump, but in a good way, is if it's like a Name of the Wind in one of the first few episodes, someone's telling a story. And so instead of just like talking, they do it in a way that's like captivating. So you're learning about the world, but it doesn't feel like a info dump. That's a better way to do it. Hiding an info dump.
Any of these rules I think can be done well as long as like you're clever enough and can kind of think about it enough outside of the box.
Yeah,
it's just, that's what
I like whenever
lazy, it can get atrocious.
Yes.
Yeah.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Because I'm reading Sons of Darkness right now, and it's essentially like a story within a story within a story that allows them to do info dumping, but it like fits the style. So I thought that was a really clever way of going about it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I disagree with trying to hide info dump, because what info dumping is actually giving information that is boring because it's not needed at the moment. So I feel like with fantasy, you always need to give some info, but you don't do that until it's necessary and you don't overbuild. So my rule of thumb with info dumping is just to never fucking build anything until you need it.
Yeah.
So, basically everything I do is I need this to happen, and I build the world as an excuse for that event to happen. And then because I don't know this ahead of time, you just can't dump something you don't know. You can't dump information that is not essential until you know it. And I'm on a need to know basis. Readers are on a need to know basis. We are going through this world on the same page like an explorer exploring new continent together. And when you describe your world building like that, it is an expedition where everybody is excited to know. No matter how you do it, you can do it by throwing it in a conversation. You can describe whatever. I feel like, a good writer can write shit into gold. So that's one thing. For one thing, that's skill. And for another, the decision to drop these info, I think just not building ahead of time too much. So sometimes you need a little bit, but not doing it before you actually need that information actually eliminates the possibility of you info dumping. You're just telling readers on it. If you're on a need to know basis, it's not a dump, right? Yeah. And I think you either way you can throw that in any way you want, as long as you're a good enough writer to make that passage interesting. So yeah, that's my view. I don't feel like information needs to be withheld. It just needs to be given at the right time, and then it won't feel like a dump.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the fun part about looking at bad ways to do info dumps, is because they can be so glaring. I think my least favorite way of doing it is when a character says, "as you know," and
Oh God.
as you know, and then lets the characters know that have lived in this world their whole life, like, "as you know, we have 2 moons." Like, yeah, I do.
That's the worst. So many books do that. They'll be like, oh, so they'll be talking about nothing, and then they'll be like, the war over town, and they'll start talking about the war, and I'm like, why are you talking about that? Because she should already know this.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a natural conversation. Like, I get it, but it doesn't feel right to me.
I've always wanted to see that, like, lampshaded or something, where you just have a weird fucking character who's just saying that, and everyone's like, what the fuck, Dennis? Why are you bringing that up?
I actually, in Critical Rouse, The Surviving Sky, which we, previous episode, if you want to check out her interview, we'll plug that. But in that book, one of the characters does like a really big info dump, and the other character was like, yeah, why don't you like condescend to us further about stuff we already know? Like, she actually makes a really great joke about that in that book, which I really appreciated.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you could get a lot of mileage out of like some dude mansplaining something to an expert in some magical subject.
Yeah.
I love when authors call themselves out on stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Nathan, as you know, this is the end of our episode.
Yeah, it is.
And so we'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to speak with us. Really, this was a lot of fun. And I hope that we can connect with you all as you put out more books, and hopefully we can connect with you as you become finalists and win this thing. Hopefully it's one of the authors that joined us tonight. But we'll kind of gracefully exit and say thank you for joining us.